Hello and welcome to the Indy Author Podcast. Today, my guest is Tara Robinett. Hey, Tara, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. To give our listeners and viewers a little bit of background on you, Tara Robinett is the Director of Publishing Operations for Draft2Digital. She's worked in publishing since 1996
Yes,
for
ma'am.
traditional publishers such as Saxon Publishing and has also worked as a freelance typesetter, editor, and proofreader before becoming the first official employee hired by Draft2Digital in 2013. She currently oversees the customer support and content review teams, and she lives in Tulsa with a menagerie of cats and dogs and kids. And Tara has joined me today to talk about the power of print. And we're going to be talking about two aspects. One is print generically and why and how it's important, and also about D2D's print offering, which recently came off beta to become generally available to all D2D authors.
That's
So,
right.
Tara, I thought it would be helpful just to start out with some general information about print. How has print and specifically how has POD evolved over the last few years?
It's one of those things that, especially for Draft to Digital, we weren't in print. When we first started, we were digital only, but we got into print because it outsells ebooks 4 to 1. It's still very, very, very highly used resource. So we wanted to get in on that as well. But, for a lot of people, they don't even know what print on demand is or the difference between it and traditional publishing. But print on demand is, it doesn't get printed until someone orders a copy of the book. So there's no inventory in warehouses. You don't have stacked piles of books in your garage or in your closets, which we often get that question is these authors have actually paid to have 5,000 copies of books run off. And then they're asking us if they can ship those to us for us to resell. That's not what print on demand is. Print on demand is a digital listing that makes your book available in print format. When a buyer buys a copy of the book gets printed at that time. So it's print on demand.
And has that changed? Have you seen any changes in that over the last year, 2 years, 3 years, however far back you'd want to
It,
go?
it's been different players. I don't know if you can remember CreateSpace used
Oh,
to be,
yeah.
me too,
Yeah.
one of the biggest players in the industry for print on demand. And they were a part of Amazon for a while, but then they got phased out completely. And Amazon decided to do their own print, Amazon Print on Demand, completely separate from CreateSpace. So as far as what's being offered, I think when it originally came out, I didn't see a lot of the features like large print. You could only get that if you were a traditionally published author. But eventually the demand got so big for large print or hardcover or various trim sizes that even print on demand services started to offer those extras to be in line with what your traditional publisher offers.
One of the things that intrigues me, but hasn't quite intrigued me enough to make the leap, is hardcover.
Yes.
And I haven't because I don't think that I would like the effect of the cover that I have for my paperback just being printed on a hardcover. I would want a dust jacket, which I understand is available. My hesitance is that I've asked people to send me like pictures and videos of their POD, print on demand hardcovers, and they look pretty good in the pictures, but I would really want to hold one in my hand, but I don't quite want to go to all the trouble of setting it up on a printer in order just to order a sample copy and risk that I might not like it.
That is a feature that we intend to add. So much of hardcover, for a lot of these authors, the books aren't huge 500-page books. These are smaller books for a lot of the authors. And hardcover often prices authors just out of the market, especially these authors who are just getting started. So this wasn't a feature that we added right out of the gate. It's one that we fully intend to support. So I'm like you. I haven't seen one yet, but I would love to see one. And we'll do quite a bit of testing once we bring it to the market. But that's a feature that's coming soon for us. I agree. And I know where you're coming from when you were saying it's just your paperback printed on the cardboard stalk. But from what I've been told by other authors who have done it, it looks really good and it's a quality material. So I'm just as interested in you and seeing what that's going to turn out looking like.
Yeah, maybe we can figure out a way to encourage our listeners to provide pictures or
Copies.
videos of their hardcover POD, because I would love to see some
I
samples.
would
And I think
too.
the reason that I would like hardcover is I think there's a small group of super fans who would like to have hardcover books of their favorite authors,
Oh, for
and
sure.
also
I do that.
libraries. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
libraries might be more likely to stock a hardcover print copy than a paperback print copy.
We've had no issue with libraries denying books just because it's paperback versus hard copy. So I've not encountered anything like that.
That's
But
good
I
to hear.
understand what you're saying because, in my mind, a hardcover lasts longer, can handle more wear and tear.
Yeah,
And you think that's what a library would be looking for. But we've never had a library turn an author away for paperback.
that's good to know. And I figured that the paperbacks are inexpensive enough that they can always just get a replacement copy fairly
That's very true.
inexpensively if they need to.
Very true.
And you had mentioned that print books still sell 4 times as many as ebooks. Did I remember that correctly?
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's crazy.
I, I have been in digital publishing since 2013 and I still buy paperback copies. And I buy a ton of ebooks too. But when I love the book, I go out of my way to buy a paperback. I want a copy on my shelf. I don't know if it's my age. I don't know what it is, but I love the feel of it in my fingers. So I do both, but I tell you, I always get a paperback of my favorite books. Yeah, they still sell very, very well, 4-to-1 to ebooks. So there's a huge market and a huge demand for print copies. A lot of our authors, they tell us they don't feel like a real author until they can hold it in their hand and go, look what I did.
Yeah.
They can show family and friends, look what I did. It's out on their coffee table. When it's all in ebook, it's a little bit harder to say, hey, I'm a published author. Grab your
Yeah.
Kindle and I'll show you or whatever.
Yeah, I'm much more likely to pick up an ebook, read the first couple of paragraphs, and then if I'm not immediately gripped, I put it aside. Whereas if I've gotten especially hard copy, then I kind of come to it with a different mindset. I come to it like it's an event, and I'm willing to give it more time to grab my
Oh,
attention because I've made the investment, but also just because it seems more special somehow. Like it's like going to a movie in a movie theater as opposed to,
watching it at
just
home.
yeah, watching it at home. It's an event, not just a way to pass a couple of hours.
That's a
Um,
unique way of thinking about it. I've never thought about it that way. I do think that people are more likely to leave reviews whenever they put that time and effort into buying a physical copy. I know I feel like I always leave a review if I've ever bought a copy of the book, a physical copy of the book. Whereas I have to like the book before I leave a review on a digital copy.
yeah,
Uh,
it is more of an event.
that
And are
makes
you
sense.
Yeah. Are you seeing any trends? Is the 4-to-1 sales getting more even, getting less even? What are you seeing in terms of trends?
No, no, and the 4-to-1, that is just, you could just Google print sales to ebook sales. That's across the board. That's not just draft to digital. That's across the board. Um, as far as trends, since we started with ebook and we have the majority of our content in ebook, of course, we're seeing a lot of print sales right now because people are just now adding their books into print. So this is really new to us. I think we need a little bit more time or sales tracking before we will have good trend reports. I know that's something that we watch very carefully, but, you know, I'm seeing authors with huge back catalog who've never been in print adding all of their content and they're just amazed at all the print sales. But it's not necessarily because their sales are so good. It's just that there's a appetite for print copy out there. So once you get it out there, somebody's going to buy the book. So I don't think I have enough data yet to really give good trends, but definitely we see a lot of print sales.
And for people who are transitioning some of their catalog from ebook to print, can you just describe what the process is that they're following in order to do that?
Absolutely. So we've made it as simple as we can. You can use the files that you created out of your ebook, and we can take that and turn it into print ready files. Um, So if you uploaded a Word doc, we're going to take that Word doc and we're going to convert it into a print-ready PDF version of your book. You tell us your trim size. We have several trim sizes to select from. So it doesn't matter the margins you set in your Word doc. You tell us how you want your book formatted. And then you can also pick from several different template and style looks. We let you really get in there and manipulate and modify and make it look the way you want it to look. We can do the same thing with your print, with your ebook cover. We can take that cover, and some guys on our dev team, they built a tool to create a full wraparound jacket cover. So by the time we're at the cover stage, you've told me your trim size, you've uploaded the file, so I know your page count. That helps me to determine the size of the cover, the spine width. And then what we do is we take the predominant color from your front cover image and we bleed that across the back and the spine. You still have control over that. So if you look at it and you go, yeah, the predominant color was green, but I think it would look better if it was more red. You can manipulate and modify your colors. Then we give you a field to type in your print description. You can fill in your author bio. You can upload an author image. And we create a full back cover with everything exactly the way you want it to look. You can manipulate fonts, font sizes. I mean, we've done everything. And we will produce the full wraparound cover that you need for print. It's super easy. It's really just a couple of clicks. Once you've done your ebook, you're just going right on through and going, yep, turn it into a print book. We'll display everything for you. So you can actually see an online preview of both the interior and the cover. And then once you get to the very last stage, you can order a proof copy, or you can release it into the wild, let it go out to print, and order author copies. So we have multiple options available for you.
And when you order a copy before it's released into the wild, does it
Yeah.
have the proof copy only?
No, that actually is one of the most common questions.
Yeah.
And I guess, is that in Amazon? Is that
Yes. So
Okay.
if you put a book up on Amazon, and I want to talk a little bit about similarities and differences with KDP print, because I think that's something that a lot of people have at least heard about if they haven't used. If you order a print copy before you release it for sale on the retail site, it says like proof copy, not for resale or something like that, which is a drag because if you want to make a big splash on
social
launch
media,
day with everything, then you can't have
yeah.
saleable copies on your launch day. And if you release it early on Amazon, like secretly make it available for sale so you can buy author copies, it doesn't say that, then, it's kind of a logistical nightmare.
So ours does not say proof copy, pre-press. I've seen that on some that I think were coming through Nook Press. It said like pre-press version. It is the finished final copy, as if you were a buyer and you purchased it from a store. So it's good. You can splash it all over. There was one thing I was going to bring up to you that's something that I kind of wish authors knew. If you are using your ebook files and you're converting to print, many of our authors are writing ebook with digital in mind. So they use words like click here to join my newsletter.
Yep.
Yeah, that doesn't work in print. Or put their social media links and it'll just say Twitter. And on a Kindle, you can click on that and it takes you to their Twitter page. It doesn't work in print. So if you're using your ebook files, keep that in mind. Don't use ebook language. Don't say, leave a review for my ebook because it's not an ebook. Don't say, click here because you can't do that in print. It's just one thing that I wish authors knew and thought about. You may have to clean up your file for print, or you may have to think about it as a print version of your book when you're used to thinking of it as an ebook. That's the only time that we have to really kick anything back is when that we took their ebook, converted it to print, and then there's specific language for ebook publishing.
Yeah. And I'm assuming that with D2D print, you can do this sort of everything taken care of based on the ebook approach, but I'm assuming you can also create your own interior file, like with Vellum or Atticus or something like that, create your own cover and upload that if you wish to take that approach.
Absolutely. Yes. So you can upload your own interior. You can upload a separate Word doc interior and have us create the PDF, but separate from your ebook. So if your ebook has click here language or ebook language, you can upload a separate file and we'll still generate the print ready, or you can upload your print ready PDFs from like Atticus or any of those services. Or if you've already got or have a cover designer who's making these for you, you can upload your PDF. Your choice. Yeah. Many authors just, at least maybe it's just the ones who's calling into support, which is the ones I'm talking to, but they don't know. They don't know how to get a cover. They
Yeah.
don't know how to find a cover designer. They don't know how to do these things. They don't know how to determine the spine width of a print version of your book. There's a lot of things that we're trying to do for you so that you don't have to go out and try to learn this stuff. But we've got a lot of authors that are pros. They know what they're doing. They've been doing this for years. They've got it down to a science. And, we try to support both. We want to be available for the author that has no clue what they're doing. And we want to be available for the author that is a professional and this is their business and they've been making their own covers, for 10 years. On your front cover image, one thing I would suggest to authors is don't run the text from edge to edge, especially if you ever intend to use this same image for your print. You've got to leave some bleed. You've got to leave a little bit of space around the margins edge, just because with print, things can get cut off. So I often see authors who will run their text from image edge to image edge, which works fine in digital, not so great in print. We're always happy to help any way we can, but we have a lot of questions that come in. I think if I could emphasize one thing, if authors would get in there and try it, just give it a test. You don't have to commit. You don't have to do it. You would be surprised at how easy it is. So a lot of the times the questions coming in, I'm thinking to myself, you're overcomplicating it. Try it. Just give it a try and see. And once you actually get in there and play with the tools, you'll see that I feel like we've thought of everything. Probably haven't, but I feel like we have. But get in there and play with it. And we take so much of the guesswork out of it. There's so much of the struggle. And I've had authors say that they do trial and error and they're like uploading a cover and they're getting a print version printed and testing it to see how, does it look right? We're going to show you a display on your screen that looks exactly like how it's going to print and take a lot of that guesswork and trial and error out of it. But if I could emphasize one thing, it would just be try it, give it a try and just see.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because I think that the companies who have been in this longer, like I've used pprint, which originally I was using CreateSpace, and then it became KDP Print and IngramSpark. And I think those companies are trying to address desires of people who have been in it longer for more flexibility, like more print sizes. And, just recently I saw that pprint is asking for paperweight. So I got to the paperweight question. I was like, huh? So I had to do a little research into paperweight. And I think that it's basically, do you want like normal paper or normal book paper? Or are you doing like a coffee table kind of book, where you want something really heavy? But I had to do some research to understand that. But it is kind of interesting because it's hard for companies to accommodate both. Just a quick break from the interview. Are you getting value from the podcast? Please consider supporting it and all the work I do at the Indy Author by becoming a patron. To pledge a monthly contribution, go to patreon.com/the Indy Author, or to make an occasional contribution, perhaps to indicate the value that a specific episode or resource provided to you on your creative voyage, scroll to the bottom of any page at theindyauthor.com and click Buy Me a Coffee. And now, back to the interview. I've mentioned KDP Print and IngramSpark, and so here's the real reason I invited you on the podcast. So I've used IngramSpark for a long time. I've used them both for a long time. I'm actually quite happy with KDP Print. I know they're horror stories, but I've always had really good luck to the point that, and this was years ago, I ordered a sample copy of a print book and it came back and the color was very just muddied.
Muddy. And I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, it was the same both on KDP and Ingram. And so I sent a request to Ingram and I said, what's the deal? And they said, well, you probably need a new file. And
Print
then I
variant.
sent a request to KDP support, and I said, what's the deal? And they said, well, we see that book was printed on, Monday, April 10th at 10:45 on machine 7. And we see that the toner on machine 7 was a little bit low when you printed that. So it's possible that I was like, holy
Wow.
cow. But I really struggle with IngramSpark, and it's not for the people that are there. My theory is that those poor people are working with really, really antiquated systems. And so I avoid going on the IngramSpark website almost if I can do anything else.
Yes.
So I have not been a happy IngramSpark customer. And I am hoping that the next time I do a print book, that I will do it through D2D print. But I'm hoping you can talk to, are there features or functions that one has that the other does not? If someone is thinking about making that change, are there any considerations they should factor in before making that decision?
Definitely. Now, I personally not built books through Ingram or KDB Print. I have through CreateSpace. So I know their system, and I hear the stories like yours from all these different authors. So it's easier for me to talk about what we're doing versus what they're doing. But I think the biggest difference is the customer support. I don't know if you can remember the CreateSpace days. I loved CreateSpace. I loved their support. They were
Yes.
so incredibly helpful. I just really enjoyed them. We provide the customer support that our authors need. So that's one of the biggest differences is you're not on your own struggling to figure this stuff out. You're not going to get generic canned responses. You're going to get help. You're going to have a human to speak to. We offer phone support, which is different than anyone plus email. But that's our biggest difference. We do allow free changes every 90 days. So once you've uploaded, you can do free changes every 90 days. One thing that I think is a little bit different for print authors versus digital is the number of times that an author has uploaded an unedited version of their book or a placeholder file or an incomplete file or print. Their mind is on digital. And with digital files, you can update and replace and change out as often as you need to. But with print, it doesn't work that way. Once we have sent those files, they are lined up and ready to be printed. So that's part of why it's not free to make unlimited changes, because we're actually having to contact our printer and swap out files. So for most authors, I want to emphasize you're working with final finished content, no placeholders, no unedited, none of that. You don't want to start with those files. Wait until you have the finished copy ready to go. It's a mind shift. I mean, if you've only ever done digital and you're used to being able to make updates as needed, as often as you think of it, it's a mind shift. And so, that's a lot of what Draft Digital does is author education. We're here to help you figure this out. We offer free ISBN. So that's another thing that our system will do. And then author copy orders. We've just added international author copy orders, so we can actually get those pretty much almost anywhere. They are the full finished version of your book, no free press or pre-order proof written on them. These are what a buyer would receive if they purchased your book. You had asked about if you're already a IngramSpark or a KDP user and you're thinking about switching. There's more steps to it than if you're just uploading a digital book. You can have your print book through multiple sources. That's no problem at all. But if you are already available through, let's say, KDP Print, then if you're on their expanded distribution network, then you're reaching the same print vendors we are reaching. We're also printing through the Ingram Print Distribution Network, and it reaches all of Ingram's vendors and Amazon. So you're reaching those same vendors. I get a lot of questions about how an author transfers. There's something called a vendor of record. When your book goes out to one of these print vendors, whether it's KDP Print, IngramSpark, Nook Press, Draft to Digital, any of them, When your book gets uploaded and sent to these print vendors, it gets assigned a vendor of record. This is the person who's receiving the payment for this book. So if it's KDV Print, then how you set your account up with them is the vendor of record. Well, when you're switching to a different print vendor, you've got to request the vendor of record be switched along with it. So you've got to reach out to your original printer and you've got to say, hey, I'm going to have Draft to Digital print this book now. Switch the vendor of record to Draft to Digital. And in most cases, they'll do that. I mean, we've not had any trouble with it, but it is an extra step. It's not quite as simple as like ebook publishing. It is an extra step. That's part of why we offer free ISBNs is you'll save yourself time, you'll save yourself trouble. If you upload using one of our ISBNs that's never been on the market in the past, but we want to support authors who already have the books out there as well. They just have to do a vendor of record change with their current printer.
And I suppose if you're writing multiple books, if you're writing in a series and you just decide at some point, books X and earlier are going to be on Ingram, books X+1 and on are going to be on Draft to Digital, then there would be no issue with changing vendor of record because each book just has the same. For the people who are purchasing them, like libraries or bookstores, as an example, or retail outlets, is there any perceivable difference between whether you're going through, let's say, Draft to Digital print or IngramSpark?
No, there's not. They go through the exact same steps to purchase that book, regardless of who's doing the printing. They go through their Ingram network and they purchase the book. So no, there's not. That's a great question.
And in terms of visibility into the printing process, so you would hope that IngramSpark would have visibility into books being printed by the Ingram Content Group. And I'm not going to ask you to speculate about whether that's true or not, but does Draft to Digital have visibility into the status of a book once it's been sent on to the actual printer?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. One of the things that we are wanting to add, this was actually a suggestion from somebody in customer support, but have you ever ordered a pizza off of Domino's and there's this pizza tracker and you place your order and then you suddenly see it's in the oven or, it's being created by this person, then it's in the oven and then it's being boxed. We've kind of been talking about, we need something like that that gives the buyer, the author, a view of every step of the way where the book is. We get quite a bit of that information, but it comes in spreadsheets and piles. And so trying to decipher it can be challenging, but that's our job. That's what we're here for. But we do see, and we can see where it's at in the process. We can, and we do see if there's any issues, often authors will switch the vendor of record. So it's held up and we get a notification that there's a vendor of record challenge on this book. We need to ask the author to contact their prior printer and get the vendor of record switched to Draft to Digital. So we do have a good look into the process. I think the only area that kind of goes black for us is once it's shipping. Once it's out the door and on that truck, from that point, I'm just relying on the United States Postal Service to give me updates. And that's where it kind of turns into a black hole that I can't see a lot of. But up until it hits the truck, we're pretty much watching it from start to finish.
And is that true both for, let's say, a bookstore that might be ordering 10 or 25 or 50 copies of a book and for an individual retail purchaser who's just buying one for themselves, let's say through Barnes & Noble?
What I can see is author copy orders. As far as like if a bookstore comes in and wants to buy 10 copies of your book, we do get notification and we upload those notifications to you so you can see them on your charts. Their print sales are reported daily. So you can see the sales and what's happening as far as that is concerned. But as far as a print, I can only see the author copy orders. I don't have the inside view when some, a bookstore or a library in New Zealand orders copies of a book. I don't get to see that. Part of that is it gets sent to a print house as close to the shipping address as they can get it to cut down on the cost of shipping. So they're going to find a printer as near to that end location as they can get it. And, we just can't gather that level of detail from each and every individual print house that's available out there. So we really can only see and track the author copies.
I realize here's a question I should have asked right off the bat. It just occurring to me now. So the idea with IngramSpark, for example, is that it is an aggregator in a sense, or a distributor. I'm not quite sure what the term would be to use, but so I think a very common model for indie authors is they probably go direct to Amazon via KDP because for a lot of authors, a big part of their sales are going to be through Amazon. They don't want to give up a portion of those royalties by going through a distributor like Drafted Digital or one of the other ones. So one of the most basic entry-level indie authors models is you do print and ebook for Amazon on KDP. You do, in the past, ebook distribution through Drafted Digital. That gets the book on Barnes & Noble and Apple and various retail sites. And then you would do the print distribution on Ingram, so that if you ordered a print book on Barnes & Noble, that book was being printed via Ingram. And that's very simplified, but that's kind of a basic entry-level approach. So if someone orders a book on Barnes & Noble and the author is using Drafted Digital print, can you just give the basics of the logistics of how that order is being fulfilled?
It's the same process. So you're saying if somebody were to order a print, and this is a buyer, not an author?
Yes.
Correct? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Exact same process. Buyer orders that copy from Barnes & Noble. Barnes & Noble drop ships that order to the printer, and they print it and ship it. So it's all coming through the printer, but they drop ship that order for all new books and just print and ship straight to the buyer.
So is it the case that people who are using Drafted Digital print for books that are being printed through Ingram, it's almost like IngramSpark is one front end you can use to get to Ingram, and Drafted Digital print is another front end you can use to get to Ingram. Is that like an accurate summary of
that? Drafted Digital is a front end to get to Ingram. Ingram is a front end to get to Ingram, and Amazon expanded distribution is a way to get into Ingram as well. Okay. So yes, there's multiple ways to get in, but you're absolutely right. That's exactly it.
It was interesting that for a time, I think that the fact that Drafted Digital print was using Ingram was the worst kept industry secret out there. And I was just thinking, how long is it going to be until they actually say who they're using? But I understand that Drafted Digital went to Ingram after trying another printer. It didn't work out so successfully, and it wasn't the experience that you guys wanted to give your author
Definitely.
clients.
That was part of why beta lasted as long as it did. We were set up. We were ready to go. We had everything lined up, and then COVID hit.
Yeah.
And everything slowed to a crawl. I mean, months would go by. But that was true of everybody in the market. And any non-essential items were not being trucked and shipped, whereas essential items, medications, and toilet paper were being trucked and shipped. But everything slowed to a crawl. And, you don't think about a pandemic. At least I, in all my years, never thought I would live through a pandemic like that. And so, yeah, we ended up having to scrap the whole thing, and we started over. Went back to the drawing board, back to petitioning for different print vendors to work with us. And I mean, everything that we had laid out and ready to go just all went down the tube. We had to start completely over. So beta stayed beta quite a bit longer than we had anticipated. But then once we got up and we were cooking with gas, I mean, we were doing great. The problem then became demand. We had so many authors interested in it that not only were they interested in it, but they might have 100 back catalog titles coming through. And then there's, 500 of these authors. And suddenly we've got so many books that it was not the printer, but Drafted Digital. And we were having to opt people in batches because of the demand. It was just so big that we really kind of, keep from overwhelming the staff, we kind of limited it in. But then we went to 10,000 or so at a time and got everyone added. And at that point, we were like, yeah, we can handle this. We tested the printer with these type of loads. We tested the staff with these type of loads, and we're solid. We're good. So,
Well, I appreciate you taking that care rather than rushing something out. And I do have to
yeah.
say that I have never had anything but wonderful experiences with the folks at Drafted Digital. So if I can do more of my business there and less of my business elsewhere, then that's going to make me very happy. I think it will make a lot of other authors very happy as well.
It's so nice having it all in one spot and not having to
Yes.
remember, have I updated this file? Is it up to date over here on this print version? Is it up to date over there? So I think that's one of the best thing that I can offer authors is you've got one spot, you can get it out there in just about every format, and we'll handle it all for you. So I'm glad that you said that.
Well, and I do think that once I've tried Draft to Digital print myself, so that I can speak to it from personal experience, then I think that piece of advice I might offer someone who is basically not in it for the money, they're in it
Mhm.
for getting their story out there in a professional manner to as many retail sites as possible, is just do everything on Draft to Digital because you can get pretty much you can get to all the places I want to get to with ebooks on D2D, and
Yeah.
you can get to all the places that I would want to get to with print. And you're sacrificing some royalties that you would otherwise get if you were going direct to Amazon, but you can go to Amazon via D2D. And if
Yes.
time is what you're like, if time and efficiency is the top of your list, then just go D2D completely and enjoy those efficiencies.
And use our resources. I mean, we've got so many resources besides ISBNs, all of the different tools. So much of our stuff, you don't have to go out and buy software. You don't have to know how to use Photoshop. You don't have
Right.
to know how to use these different software. You can get on there with just your Word document and you can get a beautifully formatted book that looks great, that looks professional. So use our resources, use our conversion tools. We're happy for everyone out there to try it and just see. I think that we get more people come to us that way than any other way is just try it out. Give it a
Yeah.
try. See what you think.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Tara, thank you so much for all that background information. And
Sure.
please let everyone know where they can go to find out more about Drafted Digital online.
Drafteddigital.com is our website. And of course, if you ever need any help, we're at support@draft2digital.com. And we also have a phone line. So we're available in multiple ways.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.